6:07, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Welcome on in for a Friday, July 10th. Find us on Facebook, X, YouTube, 997WTN.com, and now Rumble. And you go to Rumble, it's 99.7 WTN. Even USA Today is now calling for Donald Trump to be nominated for a Nobel Peace Prize. I love this story for so many reasons because, honestly, I do believe that Donald Trump should get the Nobel Peace Prize. Certainly if Barack Hussein Obama, way back when, got the Nobel Peace Prize, Donald Trump, because he got it for nothing. Donald Trump has done not only something, he's done a lot. And so USA Today, they have an opinion piece written by someone named Nicole Russell. And they posted it. And as you can imagine, Donald Trump reposted this to Truth Social. But I got to tell you that it was an incredible moment. Earlier this week, I played you the audio as Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu telling President Trump he was going to nominate him for that Nobel Peace Prize.
The president has already realized great opportunities. He forged the Abraham Accords. He's forging peace as we speak in one country and one region after the other. So I want to present to you, Mr. President, the letter I sent to the Nobel Prize Committee. It's nominating you for the Peace Prize, which is well-deserved, and you should get it.
Thank you very much. This I didn't know. Wow. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Coming from you in particular, this is very meaningful. Thank you very much, Bibi.
Thank you. Thank you for everything you're doing.
All right, so this is from USA Today. Benjamin Netanyahu, of course, saying that he was nominating Trump for his efforts in the Middle East. Those efforts include helping in 2020 to forge the Abraham Accords, which established diplomatic ties between Israel and Bahrain, Morocco, and the United Arab Emirates. They go on to say Trump has been nominated before for the Nobel Peace Prize, but this time it should be taken far more seriously. The progress that he helped to orchestrate in recent weeks, they say, is extraordinary, which it is, including the successful mission to stop Iran's rush to build nuclear weapons, followed by a still intact ceasefire between Israel and Iran. History shows us just how incredible those achievements are in keeping the world safe. They say at the White House on Monday, Netanyahu telling Donald Trump that the president is forging peace as we speak in one country and one region after the other. They say that is undoubtedly true, but Trump's critics, including much of the mainstream media, will never admit it. Trump's Iran-Israel ceasefire did not seem possible given the Iranian government's close ties to terrorist organizations like Hamas and Hezbollah. Yet, Trump did it, and that is also worthy of recognition. Now, they point out, and I'll point out, past presidents have won, including, of course, Obama, Jimmy Carter, Woodrow Wilson, and Teddy Roosevelt. But they say that, and this is absolute truth, again, I'm reading from the USA Today, where they have a piece advocating for Donald Trump winning the Nobel Peace Prize. They say Trump's critics would melt into puddles of outrage, of course, if it were ever to happen. But I have a question for them. She writes, if stopping the worst state sponsor of terrorism from acquiring nuclear weapons and then ending a war in the Middle East isn't worthy of the Nobel Peace Prize, then what is? And it's a valid question. Peace through strength, they say, is more than a slogan. It is an idea that has prevented more horrific wars than we will ever know. Donald Trump has shown he not only understands that idea, but also will act on it. The Norwegian Nobel Committee should as well. And she's right. Now, the question is, do you really think that that Norwegian Nobel Committee would give Donald Trump the Nobel Peace Prize? I don't think that they will. I don't think that they would ever even consider it because, well, let's face it, Trump derangement syndrome. But one thing he has been trying to do, and he has not been able to do yet, and I don't know if he's going to be able to, is end the war in Ukraine, between Ukraine, of course, and Russia. But that doesn't That doesn't seem to be happening anytime soon.
The president said he's disappointed in Russia and told us he thinks he'll have a major statement to make about Russia on Monday. Though when pressed, he did not say what that statement will be. The president also said he just made a deal today with NATO in which he says the U.S. will send weapons to Ukraine through NATO, and NATO is, quote, paying for those weapons 100%, including the Patriot air defenses that Ukraine has been asking for, and that NATO will distribute them.
Yep, that was Kirsten Welker last night, where she did say absolutely Donald Trump is going to be sending weapons to Ukraine, and he also has a big announcement regarding Russia that is going to happen on Monday. And so we've gone, I mean, I'm not saying anything that you folks don't already know. We've gone from the war will be ended in a day to, yeah, we're going to be sending more weapons to Ukraine. Those Patriot air defenses are, by the way, from what I can gather, surface-to-air missiles to defend against aerial assaults, including missiles, aircraft, and some say drones. NATO Secretary General Mark, I think is it Rudy, spoke to Donald Trump earlier on Thursday, saying that earlier today, I urged leaders to go further so Ukraine has more ammunition and air defenses. He posted on X. He says, I've just spoken with President Trump and am now working closely with allies to get Ukraine the help that they need. So Trump's saying that NATO is going to pay for these air defenses, these missiles and the drones and so on and so forth. And so NATO is going to pay for it. Well, that's good. But, of course, who funds NATO? That would be us. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio also saying Thursday that the United States is actively talking to countries in Europe about sharing Patriot batteries with Ukraine. So I think it is a good time to remind you what Donald Trump said back in 2023 to Maria Bartiromo, that if Putin did not make a deal, he would arm Ukraine. Big time.
What I'm saying is that I know Zelensky very well and I know Putin very well, even better. Mm-hmm. And I had a good relationship, very good with both of them. I would tell Zelensky, no more. You got to make a deal. I would tell Putin, if you don't make a deal, we're going to give them a lot. We're going to give them more than they ever got if we have to.
So that is the big question now. Is Donald Trump going to arm Ukraine to the point where, because, you know, Trump makes a point, everybody makes a point to say, well, these weapons are defensive in nature. At some point, since Trump is so frustrated with Vladimir Putin, are they going to get to the point where we start and NATO starts giving Ukraine more weaponry so that they can actually be more offensive in nature and that they could go on the attack more against Russia, courtesy of weapons provided by the United States. It is 6:15. By the way, Marco Rubio is talking about just this. I've got audio from him straight ahead on Super Talk 99.7. Time to check the roads. Very good. At 6:16 on Nashville's Morning News. As far as your weather for today, July 11th, Friday, high of 92, scattered thunderstorms as well. Saturday, high of 94, scattered showers. And on Sunday, high of 94, thunderstorms in the evening. Appreciate you listening to Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. All right, so got a lot going on with Vladimir Putin and Donald Trump and Vladimir Zelensky. I just told you that the USA Today is actually out there now advocating for Donald Trump to get the Nobel Peace Prize. And I wholeheartedly agree. I know that a lot of you do agree with that. And, you know, if you take out, and this is very simple to do for all of us who are rational, but if you take out the Trump derangement syndrome and the fact that it is Donald Trump that is doing all of this, you know, negotiating peace all across the country, certainly in the Middle East, you had also the peace agreement between Pakistan and India, which was also a very big deal. If you take away the fact that it's Donald Trump and it was any other politician, that politician would get the Nobel Peace Prize. And so now there's also the story, and Joan and I spoke about this a little bit yesterday, this report that Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth decided to unilaterally, remember this story? I didn't even see this story because I'm getting to the, I don't know about you, but I'm getting to the point where I've stopped paying attention to the BS. Do you get like that? Where it's like, you know what, I've only got I've only got, in my show, I've only got 4 hours a day to cover the things that I want to cover. And if I spend my entire day debunking what every village idiot on the left has to say about Donald Trump, I'll never have any time for the real news. Oh, speaking of village idiots, wait till you hear what I've got coming up at about 6:35 on Nashville's Morning News. And I'm going to be talking about the left's, I think probably the left's biggest village idiot right now. Who might that be? I'll tell you coming up at 6:35. Marco Rubio, though, is talking about these weapons and the weapons shipments to Ukraine and how the reporting yesterday that Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth decided to unilaterally stop weapons shipments to Ukraine. Well, I know you'll be shocked by this, but that turned out to be fake news.
The Pentagon is constantly reviewing stockpiles, especially after an engagement, such as the one we had in the Middle East. So my point is that there wasn't a policy decision not to give weapons to Ukraine. It was a review in which certain munitions were temporarily paused for that review and for that purpose. And this reporting out there that there was no awareness of it is not true. Now, but no policy decision was made. In essence, no one ever said we're not sending weapons to Ukraine. That's been appropriated by Congress, and that's continued. And that continues to this very day.
All right. And by the way, this is also interesting. A new book talks about how Donald Trump threatened Vladimir Putin. And it really does bring home this notion of peace through strength. You know what the headline is? Donald Trump cautioned Vladimir Putin that he would bomb the Shiite out of Moscow if Russia invaded Ukraine, according to a new book. That's right. Donald Trump actually said, telling Vladimir Putin that he would bomb the living crap out of Moscow if Russia invaded Ukraine. That was when Donald Trump was in office. And there is audio on this. The audio is really bad. Believe it or not, it's not even radio worthy because it's at some party or something. I did post the audio. If you want to find it, it is on my X feed at Dan Mandis Show. But in the book, 2024, How Trump Retook the White House and the Democrats Lost America, Donald Trump told the donors that he had issued a harsh warning to Vladimir Putin about any potential invasion. Additionally, he said that he had issued a similar warning to Chinese President Xi Jinping about the Chinese leader if he invaded Taiwan, according to the book. Here's the quote from Donald Trump. I was with Putin and I told him, Vladimir, if you do it, we're going to bomb the crap out of Moscow, Trump revealed, according to the audio recording. It's on my social media on X at Dan Mandis Show. He says, if you go into Taiwan, I'm going to bomb the crap out of you, he said to Beijing and Xi Jinping. He thought I was crazy. He didn't believe me either, except 10%. And 10% is all you need. Isn't that what we've always said about Donald Trump? What we have always said about Donald Trump is that you never know what he's going to do. If Donald Trump tells Xi Jinping, I'm going to bomb the crap out of Beijing if you go into Taiwan. If Donald Trump says to Vladimir Putin, I'm going to bomb the crap out of Moscow if you go into Ukraine, and 90% of you is like, oh, this dude's bluffing. But if there's 10%, there's no way they're going in. In response, the White House says that Russia only invaded Ukraine in February of 2022, after Donald Trump's first term in office. And so the update is, and I've thrown a lot at you. The update is that we are sending more weapons to Ukraine. NATO is going to pay for it. Of course, we fund NATO a lot, so whatever. Donald Trump is going to have a big announcement on Russia on Monday. And by the way, this final parting shot from Donald Trump regarding Vladimir Putin from earlier this week.
That was a war that should have never happened, and a lot of people are dying, and it should end. And I don't know, we get a lot of bullshit thrown at us by Putin. For you want to know the truth. He's very nice all the time, but it turns out to be meaningless.
All right. And listen, Donald Trump is actually right, because that is Vladimir Putin's MO. I mean, that is what he Xi Jinping too, you know. They have all of these grandiose, great conversations. They have these meetings and so forth. But as Donald Trump says, they ultimately are meaningless because they never actually do what they say they're going to do. So on this Friday, watch for a big announcement on Monday from Donald Trump regarding Vladimir Putin and Russia. It is 6:23 on Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7, and Jay Harper is in for Joan Jones. Jay, what's coming up in the news at 6:30?
Sure, Dan. The search continues for those missing after flooding in Texas. It's been 1 year since the assassination attempt on President Trump in Pennsylvania, and there's a hostage situation in Clarksville. We'll have those stories coming up at 6:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
It is Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Yes, the left village idiot that I've been talking about is indeed Jasmine Crockett. So I want to play you a soundbite. You know what? I'm beginning to notice, Jay Harper, you've hosted before. I'm beginning to notice that on a slow news day, which today's not a slow news day, but if there was a slow news day, all you got to do is, go to like X and type in Jasmine Crockett, and she said something, completely dumb. So she was on a podcast, Jamal Bryant, and she made some waves with this statement where she's calling people that voted for Donald Trump dumb, basically.
Most people voted the wrong way because they were uneducated, and that's not to call them dumb, but literally life sometimes is lifing. You're trying to keep a roof over your head, keep food on the table, trying to make sure that your kids have what they need, and so you're not tuned in.
All right, so can we just go through the complete and utter BS here with Jasmine Crockett? So she is saying that people are dumb if they didn't vote for her party, or uneducated, whatever. And so clearly she is implying that people, and I'm air quoting here, voted the wrong way because they just didn't know any better. And so I'm gonna hit her with a bunch of truth. But this is so typical of Democrats in general, right? Hurl insults as opposed to having an actual discussion based on facts. So let's go through some facts, shall we? She said that people are not engaged because, life.
But literally life sometimes is lifing. You're trying to keep a roof over your head, keep food on the table, trying to make sure that your kids have what they need, and so you're not tuned in.
All right, so people are just, let's go through these one by one, all right? She says that people are just trying to keep food on the table. People are trying to keep food on the table. Under the Democrat Party, your party, the Democrats, Jasmine Crockett, stuff was a hell of a lot more expensive. Inflation was way up, over 9%. For a long time, it was really high. People had to put food and necessities on credit cards because Bidenflation was up over 9% because of the rampant spending of your political party, Jasmine Crockett. When Trump came into office, by the way, inflation went down a lot. She says that people are just trying to keep a roof over their head. Well, Jasmine Crockett, under your party, under Joe Biden, mortgage interest rates peaked at a 23-year high of nearly 8%. Those rates, by the way, went down because when Donald Trump came into office. The rates went up because of Joe Biden and Biden inflation, because mortgage rates go up with inflation. His rampant spending, Joe Biden's rampant spending, caused inflation to skyrocket. And again, Donald Trump is working his tail off trying to get those rates down. Under Trump the first time around, 30-year mortgages fell from 4.09% to 2.77%. And I love how she says people voted the wrong way, right? That's what she said. People voted the wrong way. Because I hate to break it to you, Jasmine Crockett, but people voted the way that they voted because they were feeling and experiencing what Joe Biden and your party had to offer, which was nothing good, pure and simple. So when she says people are just trying to keep food on the table and a roof over their head, well, those two situations were made a lot worse under your party, Joe Biden. And by the way, Jasmine Crockett calling people uneducated. Now, let's not forget that Jasmine Crockett, she went to private school, private college, and that whole thing. You got, this is well-worn territory, but you've got, street Jasmine, and then you've got private school Jasmine. So we've been there, done that. But there are many times where she purposely makes herself sound uneducated so that she could apparently sound more street. But can we just, as she calls other people uneducated, can we go through some of Jasmine Crockett's greatest hits? Here's one.
It is not a criminal violation to enter the country illegally.
Wait, I want to make sure one more time.
It is not a criminal violation to enter the country illegally.
Right. Well, under U.S. Code 1325, it is a crime to enter or even attempt to enter the U.S. at a time or place not designated by immigration officers. So it is actually a crime to try to and enter our country illegally.
Dan, you don't need to say all that. It's called illegal.
That's exactly right. You're right. U.S. Code 1326. It is a crime to enter or attempt to re-enter the U.S. without authorization after a prior deportation or removal. I mean, bottom line is, yeah, it is a crime. So when she spews all of her complete and utter BS, you've got to just point out the absolute facts. Because, people like Jasmine Crockett, they like to talk in platitudes. And so sometimes you've got to just, try to give them a little bit of truth. And I've got a little bit more truth for Jasmine Crockett coming up. It is 6:45. Time to check the roads on WTN. As far as your weather goes, it's going to be hot today. Today, a high of 92, scattered thunderstorms. Saturday, high of 94, scattered showers. And on Sunday, a high of 94, thunderstorms in the evening. By the way, the feels like is going to be a lot hotter than that, probably up towards triple digits, if not more. So going over some of the greatest hits, if you will, of Jasmine Crockett as she made the comment on a podcast earlier this week that, people are uneducated, basically, if they voted for Donald Trump. And so my point is, number one, obviously, that is insulting. Number two, that is indicative and emblematic as to how the left sees Donald Trump supporters. But some of the things that she says have been flat out wrong. And so as she is out there calling people like us uneducated, I'm pointing out some of the things that she has said that really gives an indication as to, despite that big, private school college that she went to, how uneducated she is. There was this.
It's not a criminal. It's a crime. It's not a crime, which is why they're so frustrated, because they really want our local law enforcement to go out and round up people when they could be looking out for the murderers and the sexual abusers as well as the robbers. They want them to go and round people up.
Wow. So she's actually saying that law enforcement does not want to go after the murderers and the sexual abusers and the robbers. All they want to do is go after illegal aliens. That's actually what she said. I hate to break it to you, Jasmine, but that is exactly who they're going after. The illegal aliens, who are the murderers and the sexual abusers and the robbers. I mean, just this week, we picked up bad hombres in Indiana and Omaha, Nebraska. They'd all been busted for murder and robbing and such. I mean, the guy from that was in Omaha, Nebraska, I told you about this yesterday and earlier this morning. The dude they picked up in Nebraska, he was wanted for taking part in 5 murders in El Salvador.
It's a serial killer, Dan.
It's a serial killer, Jay.
Good Lord.
We're so uneducated. Yet she's the one calling those that voted for Donald Trump as dumb. You want another one? I think I've made my point, but I pulled the audio, so I might as well. Another one with Jasmine Crockett.
As far as I'm concerned, you randomly kidnapping folk and you throwing them out of the country against their civil rights, against their constitutional rights. And frankly, how would they feel if some other country decided that they were going to just start throwing people randomly in our country?
So she says that people are being randomly kidnapped and sent to other countries. That's what she is saying. Clearly, obviously not what's happening. We are grabbing bad guys and gang members, and yes, some illegal aliens as well. We all know that. I already made that point. Not random folk. But this is the part that I want to focus on.
And frankly, how would they feel if some other country decided that they were going to just start throwing people randomly in our country?
So isn't that what's happening, actually? We got all these people coming in from we did have all these people from other countries coming into ours, and specifically Venezuela. Venezuela just did that, Jasmine Crockett, emptying their prisons and sending them here. We could also talk about all of the Chinese nationals that are here as well. Cuba did this, by the way, back in 1980 when Fidel Castro allowed 125,000 Cubans to migrate to the United States, including, by the way, 22,000 convicts. Yeah, that happened. And Venezuela basically has been doing the same thing. And here's another one.
A lot of my bills around fentanyl. I've done that with a number of, Republicans that have been like, oh no, like the border crisis, it's all the fentanyl and da da da. And I'm like, okay, whatever.
Did she really just say
whatever?
Yeah, she did. She said whatever when it comes to the fentanyl crisis. The downplaying of the fentanyl crisis, which, by the way, I don't know what it currently is, but I would say to Jasmine Crockett that under the Biden administration, over 100,000 people a year died because of fentanyl that was coming over the border from your president's open border policy. But
whatever.
Fentanyl is still one of the top killers of young people in America. And she downplays it. So I'd have to ask the question, okay, so who exactly is uneducated? Is it the people that voted for Donald Trump, or is it you?
Whatever.
I would say that it's you. I got one more. Should I do one more? Let's do one more. We did do this earlier, but I want to earlier this week, but I want to do it again. Jasmine Crockett being asked if she had ever really noticed anything off about Joe Biden.
Do you have concerns about the president's health and his mental acuity?
No.
None whatsoever?
I had none. Now, granted, I didn't see Joe Biden every single day, but
Now, that is important. I want you to remember that. When she says, now, granted, I didn't see Joe Biden every single day. All right, remember that statement.
None whatsoever.
I had none. Now, granted, I didn't see Joe Biden every single day, but I did have an opportunity to interact with the president. I never had a concern. If there's anyone that I am concerned about their mental acuity, it is the current occupant.
All right, so wait a minute. So now I'm confused. So do you see Donald Trump every day, Jasmine Crockett? Because you just said that you didn't see Joe Biden every day, but you never had a problem. Well, you don't see Donald Trump every day, and suddenly you do have a problem. Now, obviously, she's full of crap. I mean, Jasmine Crockett. I said at the time, did you ever watch TV? Did you ever listen to Joe Biden's speeches? Clearly, the American people had a problem and a big concern with Joe Biden. And so basically, she is doing what the Democrats have been doing, which is gaslighting the American people. And, for me, when, Crockett says something like that, my bottom line is
Whatever.
By the way, did you see this? Very quickly, and then I'm done. Found out yesterday that polling shows that Representative Jasmine Crockett is at the forefront of likely Democrat voters' preferences for the Senate race in the 2026 midterms in the state of Texas. So, and I saw another report, but I can't seem to verify it. But there's another report that showed that she was actually beating John Cornyn, the senator in Texas who was up for re-election in 2026. So if you put all the polling together that is out there, she would win the Democrat primary in Texas for the Senate race. And then if she makes it to the general, There are some that are saying that she would even beat John Cornyn, the Republican. Now, I don't know if you buy that. I don't necessarily believe that I buy that, because I think the Cornyn is, in the state of Texas, a lot of people that love John Cornyn, but definitely, clearly something to watch. It is 6:53 on Nashville's Morning News. All right. Jay, what is going on in the news?
Well, Dan, of course, Texas has been in the news, sadly, for not good reasons, and the president will be visiting there today. It's also been 1 year since the assassination attempt on Mr. Trump in Pennsylvania, and a Middle Tennessee employer ceases operations a bit earlier than people thought they would. We've got that coming up at 7 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.